The footage you're about to hear described captures a moment in policing that felt impossible, even in 2050. A moment when officers located suspects without opening a door, without a chase, without a shot fired, all because of a floor. A floor that could feel heat, pressure, and movement in ways the human body never could. For years, the public thought thermal pressure floors were just another futuristic gimmick, a flashy tech pitch that departments would waste money on before quietly abandoning. Even officers joked about them. To them, the idea that a building's surface could detect the exact weight, gait, and heartbeat of a person hiding inside sounded ridiculous, more science fiction than policing. They called it fortune-telling tile, magic carpet policing, budget nonsense. But all the jokes stopped the night this footage hit the national feeds. The story begins inside an experimental 2050 precinct, one of the first buildings fitted with thermal floors. The floors look normal, polished black glass tiles, seamless, illuminated by faint underpanel lighting. But inside each tile is a micro-layer matrix capable of reading body heat distribution, weight differentiation within 0.02 pounds, heartbeat rhythms, step patterns, pressure changes from concealed movement. Not only can it detect who is standing where, it can detect if someone is trying not to move at all. And in the late hours of a rainy Tuesday night, those floors would reveal a truth no officer could see with their eyes. The footage opens with Officer Ryland approaching a quiet precinct lobby. The shift is nearly over. Rain patters rhythmically against the glass outside. Nothing seems unusual. He greets the night clerk, checks a report, and prepares to clock out. Then, a soft chime. Thermal anomaly detected. The alert glows across the wall display. Ryland glances up, confused. What anomaly? No one's here but us. The clerk frowns and taps the console. A 3D overhead map of the lobby appears, each tile pulsing with the registered heat and pressure from Ryland and the clerk. But in the far corner of the lobby, near the maintenance closet, a single tile flickers with faint orange heat. The clerk zooms in. That's impossible. Nobody walked over there. Ryland's body cam captures every detail as he slowly approaches the console. He taps the panel, revealing a data readout. 162 pounds. Micro movement detected. 0.6 millimeter. Thermal trace rising. The system wasn't showing something. It was showing someone. Ryland speaks quietly into his shoulder mic. Dispatch, this is Ryland. We may have a 1067 in the precinct lobby. Possible concealed subject. Dispatch responds with disbelief. Inside the precinct? Confirm? Ryland doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The floor answers for him. The thermal tile pulses again, this time showing a distinct heel-toe micro shift. Someone was hiding, right beneath their noses. Ryland motions the clerk to stay behind the desk. He moves slowly toward the maintenance closet, hand hovering near his holster but not drawing it, because if the system is accurate, he knows the subject hasn't moved more than a few millimeters. He speaks softly. If someone's in there, come out now. We see you. No response. But the floor shows a spike, a sudden red bloom of heat. Someone inside is panicking. Ryland opens the closet door deliberately, not rushing, letting the body cam capture the moment in perfect clarity. The closet is dark, silent, just shelves, mop, cleaning supplies. At least, to the human eye. But the thermal floor's projected overlay appears on Ryland's visor. A glowing outline, human-shaped, curled low behind the largest storage bin. Ryland steps in slowly. Sir, I don't want to escalate this. Come out with your hands where I can see them. A shaky voice whispers, I thought it wouldn't detect me if I didn't move. Ryland freezes. You can hear the moment he realizes what the suspect is admitting. This wasn't some random trespasser. This was someone who knew exactly how the tech worked and was trying to beat it. Ryland signals backup quietly. A moment later, two supporting officers arrive. They coax the suspect out, hands up, stunned. The man had slipped into the precinct through a service corridor hours earlier, hoping to steal biometrics from the property room. He thought hiding perfectly still behind a bin would keep him invisible. But the floor had felt him breathing, felt the shift of his weight, felt his rising body heat as anxiety grew, felt every attempt to stay silent. A system the public thought was sci-fi nonsense had just caught a suspect without a struggle, simply by listening to the ground beneath him. The narrator returns. For years, people mocked thermal pressure floors, but the night they identified a suspect by the warmth of his fear, America realized this technology wasn't just real. It was revolutionary. The precinct incident should have been the end of the story. A contained moment, a clever arrest, a cool clip for internal briefings. But fate had something bigger planned. Much bigger. Because just 12 days later, the tech that had quietly identified one hidden suspect inside a precinct would expose an entire armed crew hiding inside a dark, abandoned warehouse. An encounter so unbelievable, so against every expectation of traditional policing, that the footage became one of the most replayed body cam sequences in 2050. It begins deep in the Riverbend Industrial District, a sprawl of rusted factories, shuttered shipping bays, and hollow storage yards. The kind of place crime goes to breathe when the city isn't looking. At 2:16 a.m., a silent alarm triggers from an old freight warehouse slated for redevelopment. Nothing flashy, just a tripwire sensor, likely a raccoon, maybe a homeless squatter passing through. Officers Hartley and Knox respond, expecting the same old routine. Clear the space, file the report, get back in the cruiser. Their body cam footage shows them approaching the enormous sliding doors, flashlights cutting thin beams through thick dust. Rain tapping against corrugated steel, wind moaning between broken windows. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. But as they step inside, the building lighting flickers on, triggered by the precinct's remote power-up, and reveals a surprise neither officer expected. How the hell is he breathing that lightly? Before Knox can respond, the floor pulses again, and another shape appears. Then another. Then another. The officers stare in disbelief as the floor reveals 5 warm silhouettes, all positioned behind support beams and stacks of old crates. None of them had made a sound. None of them had moved enough for human senses to detect. But the floor felt every ounce of their weight pressed into the ground. Knox radios. Dispatch, we've got multiple unknowns inside the warehouse. 5 confirmed, possibly armed. Request immediate backup. Dispatch responds. Negative. Nearest unit is 14 minutes out. Hartley inhales slowly, steadying his nerves. The floor pulses again, but this time something new appears. Red arcs. Pressure signatures showing the tension in each suspect's legs. Hartley's eyes widen. They're preparing to stand. Knox adds, no, they're preparing to ambush. The thermal tiles shift, glowing brighter, mapping out micro movements, weight shifts, and heat fluctuations with surgical precision. The system speaks again, voice calm but urgent. 5 subjects. Trajectory pattern indicates coordinated rise within 10 seconds. Knox whispers, this isn't a burglary crew. This is an organized hit team. The officers retreat behind a stack of metal pallets, keeping low, keeping quiet. Hartley switches his visor to tactical overlay, letting the floor's data project directly into his field of view. Suddenly, body cam footage captures the impossible, but the officers never hear a footstep. Not one sound. Yet the floor tracks every detail. Subject 1, rising weight distribution. Subject 2, weapon-shaped heat signature. Subject 3, forward lean, attack posture. Subject 4, heartbeat spike. Subject 5, slow approach pattern. Knox mutters, They think they're stalking us, and they don't know we can see every move. Hartley exhales. Let's end this before anyone gets hurt. They wait. They time it perfectly. They watch the floor. When the heat signatures show all 5 suspects inching forward, slow, deliberate, hunting for angle, Hartley shouts, "Police, stay where you are, hands up, now!" For the first time, the suspects freeze, startled. They had no idea they'd been seen. No idea the officers knew their positions. No idea their hiding spots were useless. One of them stammers. How did they? Knox steps out with weapon ready but steady, voice firm. Floor sees everything. It felt you move. It felt you breathe. Don't make this worse. The suspects drop their weapons. All 5 surrender. Not a single shot fired. The body cam ends with officers escorting the suspects out as the floor dims back to blue. The narrator returns. This was the moment the nation realized thermal floors weren't gimmicks. They were guardians, the silent eyes beneath our feet. If the warehouse incident stunned officers, the next encounter broke their understanding of what searching a building even meant. Because the thermal pressure floors weren't just useful in wide-open industrial spaces. They were about to expose a threat hiding inside a place no one thought was possible, a luxury residence built like a fortress. The call that changed the way America saw buildings. It happens in Crestline Heights, a neighborhood where glass mansions and elevated smart villas line the cliffs above the 2050 skyline. A place with more security drones than mailboxes. A place people pay to feel safe. At 11:03 p.m., a panicked domestic alert comes from a 7,000 square foot tech estate. A woman claims someone is inside her home. She hears footsteps, breathing, dragging sounds. But the home's surveillance system shows nothing. No motion, no thermal bodies, no digital entry logs. She insists. "He's inside. I heard him whisper my name." Officers Vega, Lynn, and Torres respond. They arrive to find the woman trembling but unharmed. Her smart glass windows are intact, doors auto-locked, no digital entry breaches. Her voice shakes. "I know what I heard." Officer Lynn tries to calm her. "Ma'am, your system says no one entered." She stares at him, eyes full of fear. "That's why I'm terrified." The house with invisible intruders. The officers begin a standard interior sweep. The mansion is immaculate. Cream white paneling, neon edge lighting, AI-assisted climate control humming softly. The kind of place designed to hide nothing. But something feels wrong. Torres whispers into his mic. "Hear that?" Lynn nods. A faint creak above them. Vega checks his normal thermal scanner. Blank. No heat signatures. Lynn frowns. There's definitely someone in here. Then Vega remembers. This home is part of the new Civic Safety Retrofit program, meaning the floors have a silent, rarely discussed feature, microthermal pressure detection. Not the full precinct-grade system, but advanced enough. Vega taps his wrist device and connects to the house's manifest. A soft chime echoes through the walls. Thermal floor subsystem active. The officers look down. For a moment, nothing happens. Just sleek stone panels. Smooth, cold, normal. And then, the floor begins to glow. Not bright, not obvious, just faint shifting patches of amber beneath the polished surface. Lynn narrows her eyes. "Those heat spots, that's above us." Vega nods. "That's the ceiling contact. Someone's weight pressing down." Torres whispers. "He's crawling in the ceiling void." The floor pulses harder, then displays a distorted humanoid outline moving slowly, deliberately, following the officer's path. The suspect is tracking them from the ceiling space. Lynn mutters, "This is not a burglar. This is a hunter. The moment the intruder realizes he's exposed, the thermal floor subsystem activates its predictive mode. A soft AI-generated analysis appears on Vega's visor. Weight, 142 to 155 pounds. Heat level, low. Movement, slow crawl. Breath rate, suppressed. Intent pattern, ambush preparation. Torres freezes. He's holding his breath to avoid detection. That's trained behavior. Vega looks up toward the ceiling. He has no idea the floor is giving him away. Suddenly, the heat signature shifts, fast. The suspect crawls toward a position directly above the foyer balcony railing, a spot that gives him a perfect drop angle onto the officers. The floor lights flash. Ambush trajectory identified. The officers step back instinctively as the thermal panel glows red, indicating imminent downward force. Torres whispers, "He's about to drop." Vega speaks loud and clear, "Police, we see you. Do not move." For the first time, the suspect freezes. He wasn't expecting that. He wasn't expecting them to know where he was. His heat signature wavers, panic rising. Lynn shouts upward, "Ceiling void occupant, exit now or we breach." And then, the suspect slowly crawls backward. The floor reflects every inch, every shift, every ounce of pressure. There's no escape. The surrender nobody saw coming. Finally, a small corner panel in the ceiling drops open. A man, mid-30s, tactical clothing, shaking, lowers himself down with hands raised. His voice cracks. How did you find me?" Vega responds, "The house felt you." The suspect looks down at the glowing tiles beneath him, expression suspended somewhere between fear and disbelief. "You're telling me the floor detected me?" Torres nods. "The floor saw everything you tried to hide." The man collapses to his knees, defeated. No fight, no chase, no force. Just an arrest so surreal it felt like science fiction. The aftermath, a technology too strange to believe. Later analysis shows the suspect was a professional classified burglar, one who specialized in bypassing digital systems, thermal scans, and structural sensors. He beat the cameras, he beat the alarms, he beat the windows, he beat the walls. The only thing he couldn't beat was the pressure of his own weight. The floors told officers everything: his location, his posture, his breathing pattern, his intent. The narrator closes the section with a chilling line. In 2050, criminals hid in the dark, but the floor beneath their feet refused to hide them. The Crestline Heights mansion incident should have been the pinnacle, a case so bizarre and unexpected that it felt impossible to top. But fate had a different plan, because only 2 weeks later, officers were called to a situation so tense, so unpredictable, so potentially violent, that it would become the defining moment of thermal pressure floor policing. A moment where an entire tactical team realized sometimes the deadliest threats are the ones you can't see until the floor reveals them. A hostage crisis that defied logic. It begins at 3:14 a.m. A lone service technician at a retrofitted corporate robotics facility triggers an emergency alert. A voice, strained, shaking, comes over the line. "There's someone else in the building. I don't know where, but I heard breathing behind me, and now I'm locked in a storage bay." Officers respond, expecting a simple break-in, but the moment they enter the building's lobby, the situation turns sideways. The entire space, white ceramic walls, neon directional strips, quiet humming servos, is pristine. No broken entry points, no thermal signatures in the hall, no motion in any corridor. Nothing. Except for the technician's terrified voice repeating, "He's here. I can feel him watching me." The responding officer, Sergeant Bradley, turns to the others. "We've been here 3 minutes. If someone's hiding, they're a ghost." That's when the thermal floor system quietly chimes online. The floor sees what the building doesn't. This corporate complex is equipped with second-gen thermal pressure flooring, far more advanced than the version in the mansion. It can map weight distribution down to a fraction of a pound, detect emotion-based temperature changes, identify crouching versus standing versus crawling posture, predict movement based on muscle tension, highlight concealed items based on weight anomalies. The officers connect to the control deck. At first, the floor remains dim, calm blue tiles indicating no detectable pressure in the lobby. Then Bradley notices something odd. A cluster of tiles, just 6 squares, shift from blue to pale green. The system renders a message. Micro pressure detected, 0.8 pounds. Officer Ruiz squints. That's nothing. Could be a vent, a rat, anything. But the tiles begin to change color again, from green to yellow. Pressure rising. Now 1.2 pounds. Then 2.4 pounds. Then 4.7 pounds. Bradley whispers, "That's not a rat." The tiles stretch outward, mapping pressure from a spreading source. It looks random at first. Then the officers realize it's a handprint. Someone is supporting their body weight with spread fingers somewhere above them. The floor is mapping the pressure from the ceiling beams. Ruiz nearly drops his rifle. He's above us. A hiding technique no one predicted. The intruder is bracing himself inside the structural rafters, distributing his weight across metal beams so that no single panel, camera, or sensor can isolate him. Invisible to thermal imaging, invisible to motion detectors, invisible to air displacement scanners. He should have been untraceable. But the thermal pressure floor doesn't care where weight hides. It senses the building's stress points. And the building was bending. The floor updates. Posture analysis, prone. Estimate height, 6'0". Estimate weight, 178 pounds. Estimate position, 1.8 meters above floor panel C14. Officers exchange stunned looks. Ruiz whispers, "It's giving us a human blueprint through the ceiling." Another officer mutters, "This tech is witchcraft." The standoff that didn't happen. The suspect begins to crawl. Not fast, not loud, but the floors pick up everything. A ripple of amber tiles tracks him room to room. His path curves, backtracks, hesitates, then moves toward the technician's locked storage bay. Bradley tenses. He's going for the hostage. The team prepares for a confrontation. Weapons up, formation tight. But the moment the suspect reaches the room, the floor flares bright red under the doorway. A warning. Aggressive weight shift. Force loading. Attempting breach. Ruiz shouts, "He's kicking the door!" Bradley slaps the override panel. Metal shutters slam down instantly, blocking all exits and isolating the suspect inside a single corridor. He's trapped. No shots fired. No breach attempt. No violent entry. Just a single command from the thermal floor system locking down the facility with flawless timing. Ruiz calls out, "Suspect, building is sealed. Come out with hands raised." The corridor lights dim. Footsteps echo. The floor glows yellow. Then green. Then blue. Pressure normalizing. The suspect emerges, hands high, defeated, confused. He mutters, How did you see me? I made no sound. I left no heat. I left no prints." Bradley answers, "You forgot one thing." He taps the floor. "The building felt you." Shockwaves through the policing world. The arrest makes internal history. A fugitive with elite stealth training. Caught without a chase, without a confrontation, without a single raised voice. The floor captured. His approach, his stalking behavior, his ambush stance, his shift from attack to panic, his surrender. Every movement preserved in shimmering heat-mapped detail. The narrator summarizes. For the first time ever, officers didn't need to chase the threat. They didn't have to find him. The building itself told them where he was going, and what he planned to do next. The hidden ceiling suspect incident should have been the pinnacle. The moment that convinced America thermal floors were more than a futuristic gimmick. But fate wasn't done yet. Because what happened next, in a quiet suburban school after hours, would become one of the most important, most replayed, and most hotly debated body cam events of the entire decade. An incident so shocking, so utterly unpredictable, that it rewrote safety protocols nationwide. And once again, the hero wasn't a weapon, a drone, or a commando team. It was the floor. The call no officer ever wants to hear. It is 8:07 p.m. on a Thursday. A custodian at Willow Heights Elementary calls 911, whispering frantically. I hear someone inside, heavy footsteps, but I locked all the doors before I closed. I don't know how they got in. Officers respond assuming it's a straggling student, a confused parent, or maybe a raccoon. Autonomous food delivery trash bins had a habit of triggering alarms. Nothing serious. But the school is equipped with third-generation thermal floors, installed as part of a cutting-edge child safety modernization grant. What the officers find inside turns a simple call into a nightmare scenario. The floor detects a threat no one else can. The moment Sergeant Collins and Officer Brenner step inside the main hallway, their body cams show an eerie silence. Dim emergency lights, decorations still hanging from the day's activities, tiny shoes lined up against lockers. Nothing moves. Nothing breathes. Nothing feels wrong. Then the floor lights up. Tiles across the hallway shift from blue to bright orange, mapping a large, pacing silhouette inside the cafeteria. Brenner squints at the thermal overlay. Heavy weight, around 240 pounds. Collins frowns. Custodian said he heard one person, but that's not walking, that's stomping. The floor pulses again. This time highlighting a second silhouette in cooler green tones near the storage closets. Smaller, lighter, unpredictable weight fluctuations. Brenner's voice tightens. Second person, but the weight's inconsistent, jumping between 30 and 80 pounds. What is that? A child? A duffel bag being moved? Someone crawling? Something crawling. The ambiguity becomes the most tense moment of the night. The floor predicts an ambush. Collins signals to move toward the cafeteria. As they approach, the first silhouette suddenly compresses downward. The thermal pressure tiles go from orange to bright red. The floor flashes a warning. Aggressive stance detected. Center of gravity shift. Potential charge trajectory. Brenner whispers. He's crouching, preparing to spring. Then, the silhouette lunges off screen. But no sound is heard, no impact, nothing. The officers freeze. The floor displays it all. The suspect is running full speed toward their hallway, but the cafeteria doors, soundproof and sealed, muffle his movements entirely. The building doesn't hear him, but the floor does. The race against an invisible attack. Collins draws her weapon. Back! Back now! Brenner stumbles, trying to visualize the threat through the map. The orange-red heat trail streaks closer, faster, straight toward their corridor. The floor flashes. Imminent contact. The officer's ready for impact. Adrenaline spikes. Tension crackles in the body cam audio. Then, the silhouette stops abruptly. 3 yards from the cafeteria doors. Frozen. Waiting. Collins whispers hoarsely. He's holding still. Why? What's he doing? The floor reveals the answer. A thin, cool blue shape positioned behind the suspect, moving erratically, crawling on all fours. The second heat signature. Brenner inhales sharply. That's not a bag. The shocking truth as a shield. As the officers watch in horror, the floor maps it perfectly. The heavy suspect holding something, the smaller signature shifting, struggling, pressure spikes indicating movement restraint, 2 overlapping weights, one atop the other. The floor labels it. Small human form detected. Weight 63 pounds. Elevation 3.7 feet. Position rear of primary subject. Collins whispers, he's using a child as a shield. Human eyes couldn't see it. The soundproof cafeteria blocked all audio. Security cameras didn't cover the angle. Only the thermal floor could detect it. And that revelation is what saves the child. The rescue without a shot fired. Collins steps forward. Then Brenner. Their weapons lower. Their posture softens, not out of fear, but strategy. Collins speaks clearly. Sir, we know you're not alone. We know who you're holding. Let the kid go, right now. Silence. How do you know? Collins doesn't answer. She doesn't have to. The thermal floor illuminates again, mapping the child's weight shifting away from the suspect's center of gravity. The suspect loosens their grip. The floor confirms it with pressure readouts. Brenner whispers, he's letting the kid slide down just a little more. Then, the child drops to the floor. A tiny 63-pound silhouette runs across the tiles, escaping out the side hallway. The suspect is alone. Collins signals. Entry team moves. The suspect is taken down with no injuries. No force, no panic, no tragedy. All because the floor told officers what no camera, no microphone, and no human instinct could. A nation awakens to a new kind of policing. News channels explode with commentary. Thermal floors save child, no shots fired. Inside the building that can see what cameras can't. Is this the end of blind corners for police? Experts analyze the footage frame by frame. Families express relief. Civil rights panels acknowledge the transparency benefits. Officers praise the non-violent intervention. But the final word comes from the school custodian who made the call. The officers didn't barge in. They didn't panic. They saw the truth because the floor showed it to them. That's not technology replacing humanity. That's technology protecting it. The school night rescue should have been the triumphant end of the thermal floor debate, but instead, it became the beginning of something far bigger, a national reckoning with an uncomfortable truth. Traditional policing had blind spots. Thermal floors removed them, and the country could no longer pretend otherwise. Because the next incident, the one the documentary calls the turning point of 2050, proved just how dangerous those blind spots could be. A case so shocking, so unexplainably tense, so dependent on the pressure floor system that without it, several officers and civilians would have died. And the whole thing was caught, beautifully, terrifyingly, on body cam. The house that looked empty. The footage opens on a chilly December dawn. A quiet residential street, frost on windshields, holiday inflatables sagging in front yards. The kind of calm morning where nothing bad is supposed to happen. Dispatch reports a domestic disturbance call. A neighbor heard shouting, then silence, then a crash. As officers Reyes, Dalton, and Kim approach the front door of the small 2-story home, everything appears normal. No broken glass, no damage, no sign of forced entry, no movement inside. Reyes knocks. No answer. Dalton tries the handle. We see it clearly on body cam. Locked. A passing jogger calls out. They left for vacation yesterday. Kim glances at Reyes. Maybe it's nothing? But Reyes doesn't commit. Experience tells him something's wrong, so he makes one decision that changes everything. Activate floor scan. Inside the home, the thermal tiles flare to life, and what they show makes every officer freeze. The floor doesn't lie. The living room tiles glow bright orange, indicating heavy footsteps pacing in a small loop. Not walking, agitated pacing. Dalton whispers, "Someone's definitely in there." But that's not the part that makes the footage famous. The part that shocks everyone is the second figure. A cold blue outline lying on the floor. Faint, unmoving, nearly weightless. The floor labels it. Low mass signature. Possible child or pet. No pressure change detected. Kim's eyes widen. A child? Unconscious, maybe? The house looks empty, feels empty, sounds empty. But the floor is screaming the truth. A truth no human could see. The officers prepare to enter, but the floor reveals something worse. Reyes signals for entry, but before they breach, the thermal floor pulses again. The pacing silhouette stops cold, then shifts, then lifts something heavy. The weight on the tiles spikes. A label flashes red. Object lifted, mass 22 lbs, shape undetermined. Kim mutters, "He's grabbing something. A tool? Weapon?" Dalton steps to the front of the group. "We need to move." Then the floor updates again. The weight of the heavy object begins to swing, back and forth, a violent arc. Reyes whispers, "No, he's not grabbing a weapon. He's preparing to swing it." Dalton frowns. Swing it at what? The answer cuts through the radio. At the child on the floor. The split-second entry decision. The tiles light up in a rapid cascade, mapping the exact path of the object's weight shift. It is seconds from striking. Kim's breathing spikes. "We have to go!" Reyes doesn't blink. He kicks in the door. The body cam becomes chaos, shouts, broken wood, officers rushing. But the thermal floor, still visible in their HUDs, continues tracking. The suspect turning, the object rising, the child still motionless. Reyes screams, "Drop it!" Dalton tackles the suspect before the object makes contact. Kim grabs the child, pulling them away. The floor logs it. Impact prevented within 0.4 seconds. 0.4 seconds. If they had hesitated, if they had believed the empty-looking house, if they had trusted their eyes instead of the floor, the child would have been killed. The aftermath. Unbelievable footage. When the footage goes public, the reaction is explosive. News anchors replay the thermal floor clips on loop. How officers saw danger in a silent house. How the floor saved a child. How pressure mapping exposed a hidden attacker. Panels dissect the entry timing. Experts praise the precision. Civilians, many once skeptical, now ask, why isn't every building using this? But the most powerful moment comes from Reyes himself. At the press briefing, a reporter asks, "Could your team have made the right call without the thermal floors?" Reyes stares at the podium, then answers, "No. We would have walked away. We would have assumed the house was empty. We would have left that child behind." Silence. Then, thermal floors didn't replace our instincts. They corrected our blind spots. The tipping point. Mandatory installation nationwide. In the weeks that follow, Congress fast-tracks grants for public buildings. Schools, precincts, shelters, and hospitals get priority installations. Body cam systems are updated to integrate live floor analytics. Training academies add thermal floor protocols. Public support skyrockets, reaching 91% approval. Cities realize thermal floors aren't surveillance. They're awareness. A tool to prevent violence, not respond to it. And the child from the clip? Alive, uninjured, reunited with family. Because officers didn't need X-ray vision. They needed truth. And for the first time, the floor provided it, before anyone else could. A routine warehouse alarm at 2:17 a.m. turns terrifying when officers activate the thermal floors, expecting an empty building. Instead, 37 heat signatures appear across the warehouse. But cameras show no one. Then the floor reveals something worse. All 37 figures begin moving in perfect synchronized steps, like one mind controlling them. One silhouette breaks away and walks directly toward the officers. Still, the cameras show empty space. But the floor registers full human weight with every step. Melina whispers, "What is this?" Iris answers, "Whatever it is, it's invisible and it has mass."